All right. So listen, man, this is big because for one, I've been wanting to do this since 2020. I didn't know how I wanted to do it. Honestly, I was procrastinating. I was not taking the time to do this, but here we are. And it's the podcast of details. This is the very first one. This is something that I just been kept pulling me back. It kept pulling me back closer and closer. So I wanted to make sure I highlighted my friends, especially on these these very first ones that we do. I wanted to make sure that I brought people on that I really truly rock with, that I have a genuine love for, not only from meeting them through fitness or through life since I've been in Atlanta, but just in general for who they are as an individual. And it's my time and opportunity to give them their roses. So with that being said, I think this is the best one to bring on. Mario, I wanted to bring Mario. Mario, welcome, my guy. This is my guy right here, man. Welcome to the details, bro. This is the first one. I'm definitely honored, bro, that you even took the time to do this. But most importantly, for me to be able to share your story, because I think you do have a unique story of scaling in this world, bro. So man, tell him, Mario, where you from, and what are we doing now?
Yeah, so I've been knowing this guy, Josh. It's been over 14, 15 years now, and always been a dude that was straight up, real, authentic. It's always respected, you for that. So when you hit me up, of course, I was like, for sure, I want to hop on this and kind of, break bread with you, share and all that good stuff. But right now in my career, I'm a vice president for Shopify, one of the top e-commerce platforms globally. I run our U.S. East team. So we have reps that I manage in Toronto, Boston, New York, New Jersey, and I'm really looking to scale and build that brand. I've been in sales now, technology sales it's going over 10 years. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Went to Georgia Tech. It's kind of this.
Got to tell me where you from, though.
Yeah, College Park, Georgia, to be exact. For our viewers out there that's not from Atlanta, there's so many different parts, but I'm from College Park, the South Side, and really just grew up in Atlanta, College Park area. Went to Georgia Tech, played football, ball up there, and started my career, and that's kind of where our story took off.
Yeah, nah. You hadn't even started your career yet. You were still in school. You were finishing up your degree, and so we met through an old teammate of mine that had just moved to Atlanta. He had just moved to Atlanta. He was living off of North Side.
Yeah, off of North Side.
Yeah, he was living off of North Side, and we were at a party. And he was like, "Man, it's my brother, man. This is Bug, man. We played at the Tech together, and we was turning up. That was like the week. That was the turn up.
Yeah, every day after I got done with school or my internship, got done with work, we pulled up.
He used to pull up, be like, "Hey, bro, I'm ready to have a good time." And man, we just naturally connected and stayed cool. And even when I moved outside the city, but once I moved back into the city, you actually started coming to work out before D-Rad even started coming to work out.
And you know how they even popped off, right? So you invited me to one of your first hills at Piedmont Park. And, I got done. I thought I was crushing the hills. I think I did 15.
Yeah.
And so I'm feeling good about myself. And you walked over to me, slapped me on the stomach a bit. And you was like, "Hey, Bug, come holler at me." It was kind of a punch in the gut because I thought I was doing my thing, working out by myself. But after that, I felt like it was a challenge. So that's why I came by the gym to begin with.
And bro, I got to make sure that I got to reshare that photo too, because that was a transformation within it too, bro. That was definitely a transformation for you that summer. Damn, I didn't remember that, but now that you said that sounds like the shit I would do. But that sounds like the shit I would do. But here we are, man. That's since 2017. That was 2017. Yeah. And here we are, bro. I think this is gonna be a good one because just our story and even how I've been intertwined to this age of you right now. One is seeing somebody that looks like yourself. When we think of corporate America growing up, we didn't see corporate America in a t-shirt, you know, the joggers, the Jordans. We thought he was in suit and tie. And here it is, a senior VP of a major corporation. And bro, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing the details, because I got some dope friends that are really out here impacting the world. And the last thing somebody seen you walking by, they would never know that's the senior VP of the East of sales for Shopify. You know what I'm saying?
And it's cool, man, because honestly, that's been one of my major goals in my life. Coming up, you know, the people we saw in College Park that were successful were either athletes, entertainers. You know, you saw some school teachers, you know, folks that work at the airport. Where I'm from, like working at the airport is like you made it.
Right.
You're going to be there your whole career. You're going to ride that out. And so I really didn't see success in all the different spectrums. And so as I got older, went to college, you know, I got able to be exposed to other people. One, you know, great thing I think college really does is exposes you to different things, different views, different thoughts. And I had a mentor, guy by the name of Tim Barton. You know, shout out to Tim Barton, one of the major factors and contributors in my life today. But cool white guy, like played a little ball in college. So he's around brothers, right? You can tell like he was used to it. So, you know, I was able to be comfortable with him, right? But one of the things that he gave me the ability to do is to see what executives can look like, you know, different walks of life and how that trajectory and path looks. And so one of the things I always wanted to do, and I decided, man, I probably was like 21, 22 when I knew, you know, my football career is ending. You know, corporate America or being an entrepreneur is going to be my route to take. I was like, I want to be a dope person doing this. Like, I don't want this to change me. You know, I've seen a lot of people in corporate America switch up, you know, change how they sound, change how they dress.
Right.
You know, I've had those experiences earlier in my career where I did the same, try to assimilate. And, you know, you lose part of yourself in doing that. So I decided early, I was like, man, if I'm gonna really do it and really push it up a notch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it authentically me and never change. So that's kind of been my thing.
What and being yourself, like, do you feel like at a young age when we were kids, did they teach you, like, they say wear different coats? Like, did you feel like I had to do that in corporate America, but you're like, nah, I'm gonna go against the grain?
Yeah, so I actually did. So my first job out of college, so I went to Georgia Tech. Football didn't work out. Won ACC championship. You know, folks laugh now when I tell them I went to Georgia Tech, but we were good. You know, we wasn't poo butt.
Y'all was that year.
Yeah,
Y'all
we had a few years. Every year I was there, we finished top 25.
I don't know about a few, but
yeah,
that year.
went to the Orange Bowl, BCS type bowl. So don't sleep on us. But but back to the meat of it all. So after college, my first job, I wanted to work in energy. I read this book called The Prize by Daniel Yergin. And it was about energy and how it impacts the economy from past, present, and all that stuff. And I got really kind of bought into like energy, oil and gas, and how the Middle East is evolved and all of this stuff. And so I wanted to work for an oil and gas company. So I told Tim Barton, my mentor, he runs one of the biggest executive search firms in the state. And so he had connections everywhere. He's like, you know, tell me where you want to go and I can put you in the door at least. You know, it's up to you from there.
Yeah.
So I told him I wanted to work in energy. So he had some contacts over at this company called Hess, which is an oil and gas company. And so I did my interview up there. I remember it like it was yesterday. They flew me up to Newark, New Jersey. It's like a Wednesday. It's cold as heck. It's the middle of the winter. It's foggy out there. If you ever flew into Newark, you know that it's right outside of like this Anheuser-Busch big distribution facility. So it's fog in the air, it's smoky. And I'm thinking to myself, first time in New Jersey, I'm like, I don't know if, you know, if this is for me. Like, I'm going all the way up here for a job. I don't know anybody. It's risky. But I took the job. And back to your question, that was the first time I saw corporate America and what it was, right? So I saw a lot of people in suits, no facial hair, you know, blue suits, black suits, no different colors. And that was the norm. So, you know, if you look at some of my earliest pictures in corporate America, I didn't have any facial hair.
Oh man.
And
did you go bald? You had the bald?
No, I didn't quite go bald just yet. But you know, I'm sitting there with my milk dud, head. I got no facial hair. I just started really shaving, so I didn't figure out how to shave yet. So I'm bumping up and stuff. It's just a bad look. And so I used to always look myself in the mirror. I'm like, I don't really feel like myself.
Yeah.
And I remember those kind of were my first thoughts about corporate America and really trying to see, can I transform and disrupt this whole thing to fit who I am?
Because I remember when you I met you before you graduated, and then I remember when you left for New York. How long did it take you for you to really like click and find Mario? Not or we use your we. How long did it take to find Bug and not Mario when you were up there?
I don't think I ever found Bug up there, to be honest. So there was a lot of different contributing factors. So I moved when I got up there. I moved to Manhattan. And if you know anything about Manhattan, if you go from 90th Street down to Brooklyn Bridge, it's mainly whites, college professionals, but it's not a lot of diversity outside of the working hours. And so when I was going out, I hung out mostly in Manhattan. It was kind of what you think of Manhattan. So I never really found my mojo up there. So I eventually moved across the Hudson River to Hoboken. And that's where I started to meet more of my tribe. What I mean by that is dudes around my age, dudes that I can really like bond with, former athletes or guys that, play sports at some point in life. And the community was a little smaller, so I felt more at home. So that's really, take that back. That's really where I felt like myself.
Hoboken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only heard good things. Like, one of my old teammates, he lived in Hoboken before they moved to North Bergen.
North Bergen, yeah.
North Bergen. And he said the same thing. He was like, he found his rhythm once he was living in Hoboken. It was expensive, but he's like, I found my rhythm there.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? One thing that always come to mind when you say like being around like former athletes, like that's one thing that we've always had in common and that we bring up constantly as we get older, what we learn so much. What was one of the first lessons you learned in sports that you still carry today?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the first thing I learned in sports was through a drill we had to do. So everyone remember, Pee Wee ball, this before they outlawed it, where you had to do that one drill where you're on your back. There's Oklahoma, there's a guy across from you lined up that's on his back too.
Yeah.
And your coach blow his whistle and you get up and whoever puts the guy on his ass won the drill.
Yeah.
So that was like my first really experience with like being just tough. So the coach picked a bigger kid to go with me. And I was known as a track guy in the neighborhood, and I was our starting running back and our starting safety. So I'm thinking he's going to put me against more of a skill position player. So the guy he put me against was an old lineman. Then he was like a linebacker on defense, right? So I'm thinking like, man, coach tripping. Like, what you doing? But in that moment, my dad was at practice. I remember it like it was yesterday. In that moment, I looked across. My dad was like kind of lined up on the fence of the practice field. And he looked at me and I looked at him. And I was like, I got to figure this out. I was like 8 years old. And I was like, I got to figure this out. And so I get on my back. Coach was like, line up, get on your back. So I get on my back. And in that moment, I was like, I got to use an advantage. And this is what also I learned is like every situation you go through in life, you have something that's of advantage for you. And you have to identify that very early to take advantage of it. So I identified I was faster. That was the only thing I had really over this dude. I was faster than bro. And so coach blow the whistle. First thing I do, I get up faster than him. So while he's still getting up, he got one arm trying to, bounce up. I'm like a darn Pop-Tart. I'm up. So by the time he get fully up, I'm on his ass. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally on his ass. And so
that was hey, so when turn around, looked up, bro, I got a knee going in his chest, bro.
Facts, bro. I'm like Spider-Man in right when he get up. I'm on him, bro. And so I won the drill. Coaches dapping me up. And what I learned from that was being tough, like mentally tough. Like when you have like an obstacle, almost like the David and Goliath scenario or analogy, it's like, don't be afraid, figure out like what you have that's an advantage to you and that's a competitive advantage, and use that for your good. So that's really what I learned. The first thing I learned in sports, and then from that day on, one of the things also to keep in mind, like I come from a family of a lot of boys, so I'm the youngest. And I had two older brothers that were in the house.
I'm a Poochie.
Yeah, shout out to my brother Poochie, JR, what's up? My sister Alicia, everybody. But I used to fight them all the time. Like my oldest brother's probably, Poochie is 12 years older than me. Yeah. And I remember like having times I had to fight him, and me and my middle brother, we were like a year apart, so we fought all the time. And so I grew up always punching above my weight class. And I remember when I was playing sports, I was always kind of the taller, faster kid. And after that experience at practice doing Oklahoma drills, anytime the coaches were like, hey, we need somebody to play up in weight or in age, or hey, in basketball, we need somebody to D this dude up. He's bigger than everybody. Yeah. Man, I raised my hand. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I don't know what's my advantage in this scenario or situation, but I'm going to figure it out.
I think that's powerful within itself, just because you grasp at a young age, like, I'm not afraid of anything, nor I'm going to rise to the occasion regardless of what's going on. And, I think a lot of kids, like, it's the kids, like, when you line up in a line, it's like, who going to go first? And it's like, you got the kid that automatically, like, I'm the leader. You got the kid that's like, well, I'm going to let somebody go first and see what it's going to. And then you got the kids that's all the way fighting in the back, right? And I think about a lot of things that we learn why I ask that in sports is because that shit really rolls over into how
100%.
How adults move through life. People that play sports. Now, if you never play, it's a whole different scenario if you never played sports. But a lot of times you could tell by how somebody moves, just by how somebody does things out there. Mm-hmm. The person with all the talent. But they don't utilize it.
Yeah. I mean, that's even one of my interview questions when I'm looking to hire someone for my team. I want to know, like, did you play a sport? What was your position? Were you a captain?
Yeah.
Did your team win? So those kind of attributes, it speaks a lot, and it teaches you a lot at a very young age.
Right. That's great. So when I graduated college, because I think we both was on the same thing, I still had, dreams of it. And I remember the job I had that actually moved me to Atlanta. One of the big things was they wanted to hire former collegiate athletes because they knew how to work in teams.
Yeah.
They knew how to work, what it meant to work together, what it meant to have responsibility and to hold yourself accountable. So that I like that, Jewel. So College Park, what is something that you think that you carry going up that you learn being from Atlanta, like, because it's the culture capital of the world right now. Your original ATLian, so you got so many people that are moving here. You've seen the city curate, grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is something that this city has done for you that you really exposed through your day-to-day life?
I mean, I think one of the central things, and, everyone from Atlanta, no matter if you're from the South Side, East Side, West Side, North Side, there's different qualities for every side of Atlanta. Right. Someone from the West Side, they may tell you like, hey, this is how we are, right? And so I'm from the South Side. I went to Westlake High School. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we was always about was getting money and like making sure you dress good, you look good, you stay true to your word. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, vividly, the cats that I looked up to. They always presented themselves the right way. They handled business the right way. Yeah. If they owed you money, they paid you. Or they figured out a way to like get you square on the back end, no matter whatever they had to figure out. And so that was really what I learned, like growing up, in College Park. I grew up off Flash shows, off Old National, and then we moved when I was in. Yeah, man, like straight up, Love T. Nolan Elementary School, McNair High School, and then we moved when I got to high school because my parents wanted us to go to a better school because I was supposed to go to Banneker, and back in those days, man, it was hit or miss if you're gonna
Right.
make it out of Banneker. And so Westlake, still to this day, still was one of the better schools in Fulton County, especially on the south side. So my parents ended up moving from that area. We lived in Pine Tree over to the Walkmall Park area, which is like close by like Roosevelt, Washington Road area. And so, that was one of the things you just learn on the south side. It's like you handle business. You treat people the right way. If you didn't, there was consequences. And then, make sure, you look good. You look good, you play good. So that's always something I always remembered and I carried with me in life.
So, because going from, which is, we both had, we had different experiences with this. But I think that how was going from College Park then to Blacksburg?
Bro, it was different. So like, College Park is like 15, 20 minutes from the city. So from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so most of my experience in my life up to that point was being a city kid. So like if I wanted to hop on the train, hop on the bus, or, take my car, whatever, call my sister, my brother, take me somewhere, I was in 10 minutes up the road and I'm seeing skyscrapers in the city.
Yeah.
I get to Blacksburg, it's cows, it's farmland. You can literally smell the farm, like the grass in the morning. And it was different. They only had 2 clubs back in those days. So you knew, how the small colleges were. I mean, because App State, Boone was similar. It's like you go to, like, for us, it was like Cinco or you go to OC. So you knew everybody. It was a complete like shift in what I was used to. And so it took me a while, honestly, Josh, to just get used to like being in a small town and like being in just that type of environment.
Do you think that you were placed at do you think you had a disadvantage growing up? You're predominantly in a black and brown neighborhood to going somewhere where honestly, if you're there, you must be an athlete. Or you just, do you think that was a disadvantage, or do you think that gave you an edge going there?
I think it gave me an edge. Like certain people look at it differently.
Yeah.
But, growing up, I went to predominantly black schools. Like most of the time, if we had someone that was different, like black or white, Spanish, Asian, it was maybe a handful in the whole school. Like my graduating class in high school maybe had 2 or 3 diverse people. So like I was used to that. Most of the time when I did see someone that was different, it was a teacher. And so when I got to college, it was night and day. I was the minority for the first time. First time I ever experienced being the minority. I remember the first class I went to, them college freshman classes, it'd be like 200 people in there. And I walk in there like, it's just, with my boys on a football team. So when we walk in, that's all the black people in the whole class. And, it was an immediate spotlight. Because, being an athlete, everyone know you got your team gear on, you got your sweatsuit with your number. And so it's always a spotlight.
Wearing it with pride.
Yeah, wear it with pride, right?
Like that's an everyday outfit.
Yeah, like, Monday through Friday. I may change it up 2 or 3 times, but it's going to be the same central, consistent fit. But it was different. That was the first time I was exposed to being the outsider. And it came with some complications. I'll be honest with you. It took me some time to like figure out like, these people are just like me. I can have regular conversations with them, which I didn't know, leading up to it. And then also, you partying in this small town, similar to Boone, the music a little outdated. You like, oh man, you still playing Snap Your Fingers,
right?
Like, we don't move on to Gucci Man,
right? So with. Because after you left Tech, you went to Virginia Tech, you went to Georgia Tech. Do you think that helped prepare you to be at Georgia Tech? I mean, granted, you're in Atlanta, so it's a different scenario, but Georgia Tech still is like a bubble within the city. Do you think that prepared you for that?
I think Virginia Tech prepared me for a lot. I needed to be humbled, quite honestly. Like coming out of high school, having that whole experience, being like a top recruit, like having newspapers, college coaches calling you and, you 15, 16 years old. So, I'm thinking this is just normal life. Yeah. And then when I got to Virginia Tech, the guy that recruited me, Lorenzo Ward, he ended up leaving and taking a job with the Raiders, like within like 2-3 weeks of me signing the letter of intent. And so we get a new coach and, I never met him before. So that was, experience within itself. And I'm in this new place and, it was one of the toughest years of my life.
Yeah.
And I used to call home every day. My parents used to be like, my mom and dad were like, just fight through it, figure it out. I had a good group of friends up there that helped me kind of get over it all. But it humbled me. So when I got to Georgia Tech, I ended up transferring from Virginia Tech to Georgia Tech. And when I got there, like my whole focus was different. Like I looked at college totally different. I was like, make sure I go to all my classes, make sure I get my work done, make sure I'm doing the right things in weight training, make sure I'm picking up on the playbook, make sure I'm putting the right things in my body. Like I became way more mature as a student athlete after transferring to Georgia Tech. Because if you look at life, it's like a sales quota. You have your quota for the entire year, and it can be overwhelming when you start the year because you're like, man, how am I going to get to like this overall goal of say 2 million in revenue? But if you break it down day by day into more systematic approaches, it makes the big task seem smaller. So what I learned at Georgia Tech that I carried over into my career is creating a regimen and a schedule and a cadence for my life. And those three important factors for me always been mind, body, and soul. So my thing was if I can do something to impact those three things every day, as simple as make sure I say my prayers every day, reaching out to someone I haven't talked to in a while, making sure I'm doing an inventory check daily within my mental, reading the Bible, scripture, things of that nature. That's really what I incorporated into my life after Georgia Tech that I still do today.
That's what's up, bro. Shout out to you, man. Because I think a lot of times for us as young men, especially like young black and brown men too, on top of that is like we don't have, especially when we get done with sports, we don't have a foundation. Or even for myself, I graduated and I didn't really have a foundation. I had what my dad gave me before 14, before he passed away. But everything past that was me learning from peers and society and, a little bit of God. I really wasn't in that walk that I'm in now. But for you to have the discernment enough, even at that age, to be like, all right, this is the game plan that I have to use if I'm going to be successful. That's big. That's big. That needs to be highlighted more. When do you feel like you got started getting serious as a young adult about just like this is what I want?
Yeah. For me, it started early. So like talking to my parents, you'll get this. Especially with my mom. Like I've always been mature and grown. Like my brothers call me little big brother. And I remember just always having a sense of purpose. And I used to always look around and, see what we had. We had what we needed. Yeah. But I wanted more. I always felt that. I always wanted more than I had. And because of that, it always inspired me to figure out like, how can I obtain that more? Like, what does that more look like? And so I always did what I call stretch projects. Like I always was a hustler. I had a grass cutting business growing up. I found the business. My brother cut the grass. I was a candy man. A lot of that came from my oldest brother. So he sold candy in high school or whatever. So when I was in middle school, he used to take us to Sam's Club. And so the first one, he gave us the money for the first go around. He was like, hey, like I'm gonna spot y'all $20. From that day on, like, yeah, Poochie, it's on y'all to figure it out. So man, I remember, my inventory for my candy store had the hot fries, had the honey buns, had Airheads, and I had Skittles. And so I used to go around school. I'm talking about teachers, administrators to chase me around because they knew I had that candy in the bag and you couldn't sell candy at school.
Why teachers being haters,
hey,
bro?
I don't know. Hating on a young entrepreneur. So I always been that type of guy. Like I always kept money in my pocket. And when I got to high school, kind of same thing. It took a back burner for sports. Yeah. So, I made sure I was doing the right things. And in the summer or springtime, I worked at Six Flags to make money. So I always keep money in my pocket. Back in those days, I don't know if it's still the same. You used to be able to work as many hours as you wanted. So like Six Flags probably canceled this, stopped doing this after my era. But what we used to do is like we'll log in early in the morning, bro. Like we'll get up there like at 7:30 before the park open. So we'll log in, right? We at work. Your shift may end at like 3 o'clock. But you'll maybe go over your homeboy crib, leave work for a little bit, come back, clock out at 10. So you don't work 2 days in one. So it's like, you get into the bag. So that was kind of how I made money in high school.
Right. Hey, you done with Six Flags now? So they gonna
Hey, Six Flags, the kids, they good now. I'm sure they're not doing that anymore. This was years ago.
We're senior VP of sales for the East, correct?
Yeah, so it's the official title, Vice President U.S. East for Shopify.
I heard VP, so off the rip, I'm like, okay, my boy, he up the ladder. He got there. He got there. So, a lot of times people want to know, how exactly did you get to this point?
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, honestly. So when I started off my career, I did sales for an oil and gas company, and I wasn't really thinking about technology, IT. I went to Georgia Tech, so I knew about it. You got to take classes like computer science at Georgia Tech, to graduate. So I had some type of, technical experience and ability. But, I was working in oil and gas, and, I was like, man, is this for me? And then I started selling like mechanical systems for, another energy company. And it wasn't that fun anymore. What I was talking about, I didn't feel convicted. Also, the culture of the companies wasn't super diverse. And that was something that I always wanted. I always wanted to work for a diverse company that was progressive and felt strongly about equality. So I just did some research, and, technology, IT just kept coming up. Like, hey, technology is diverse. There's people from all walks of life. You can make a good living here. And then in sales, it was like, you can make as much money as you want to make. And so that really drew me to IT. So I first got on with IBM, and that was my first kind of entry into tech sales. So they have like a really good global sales school that I went through for 6 months, and then they put you out into the field. And my first job, I was a client executive for public sector. So I had, like, for example, the New York City Department of Education. So, man, massive account. I mean, they're doing over 15, 20 million in business with us every year. We got over $300 million, budget they can spend. And I'm just trying to get a piece of that.
Right.
And I'm still young in my career. And I remember, like, trying to figure out, like, we were in an RFP competing against another competitor, and they had like seasoned veterans on the other side of the table. And it's me and my team, and I'm leading my team, and I'm like 26, 27 at this time. And I was like, man, like, what is my, competitive advantage going back to my sports days when I was on my back for Oklahoma drills? And what I realized is that because of technology and access to data now, I'm more knowledgeable in real time than a lot of other people were. And I was willing to do the research to figure out, like, what these people really care about. I will search through their LinkedIn. I'll search through their Facebook. I used to get, like, deep into the weeds. I'll find if they wrote an article and just really figure out, like, what this customer cares about. And so I was able to be really successful. I hit over 200% during my time at IBM, did a lot of amazing things, which led me to Salesforce. And at the time, Salesforce was like that hot girl in school, right? Like, everyone wanted to get with her. And so I started
to be on that ticket.
Everybody, right? When I started putting it into context, when I started at Salesforce in 2017, we had maybe 18,000 employees, maybe. We were probably roughly at 7-8 billion in revenue. I remember getting to 10 billion was like a big hairy goal we had. Fast forward, I was there 6 years. I broke into some of the biggest accounts they have. I was usually on hunter teams. Another thing about sales, a lot of folks don't like hunting.
Right.
What I mean by hunting is new business. And that was my specialty. I call it now turning water into wine. Every job I've had in my career, for the most part, has been all net new business development. And so Salesforce, because of that ability, Salesforce gave me opportunities to move up into different markets, to the point where when I left the company, I worked in the highest market they had. I was one of the only handful of brothers doing it in the country. And I was definitely one of the younger people doing it in the country.
Would you call it, and not because with hunting, in sales, what would be hunting for you? Would it be writing emails? Would it be doing cold calls? Would it, like, going to go physically be there? What was hunting for you?
Yeah, it was all of it. So hunting for me started with the prep work. So say I have a list of like 10, 15 greenfield accounts. I'll figure out which ones has the greatest propensity to buy. And that's like based off some economics, like their industry's doing well. Have they had change in leadership over the last few years? is there like some growth target they're trying to go after, looking at 10Ks, financial statements, and then based off that 10 or 15 accounts, I'll bucket it down to my tier 1s, tier 2s.
Gotcha.
And then from there, I would target them. I'll do like spray and pray, I call it, send a bunch of emails, and then I'll do smile and dials, calling. There is some science to like cold calling. For example, I got really good at my hit rate because I called during 2 times of the day, between 8 to 9:30, or between 4 to 5:30. It's typically when I made my calls.
8 to 9:30 and 4 to 5:30. Is that still if you were in sales, that's still a good time to call now?
Yeah, I coach my AEs to make calls during that time as well.
Okay.
And then the third thing I would do is if I had like a customer meeting in that area, so say I flew up to like New York or I flew up to like Boston and I had a meeting in that area, I'll check and see what other prospective accounts or prospect accounts I had within that area. And I used to drop off stuff, man. I got through gatekeepers sending them a pizza box with my business card in it. I've waited outside for a chief procurement officer at 8 o'clock in the morning with some Dunkin' Donuts. I've done it all. So, I'm old school. I tote the bag. I remember back when they didn't give you iPhones. This was my first sales job. They gave you a BlackBerry. And I had like parts of the Bronx and then parts of Queens. And so what I used to do, I had this printed out map. I used to draw a circle around all the addresses for those prospects, and I'll go in there and knock on their doors. I went through boiler rooms, the back, you name it, to get to a customer.
Really? That's because, we live in an age now where people don't like doing the dirty work like that. Like they want to get straight to where you are now. They're senior VP of sales for Shopify, but they didn't know, man, listen, I was out there hunting. Like I'm out there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm waiting on this guy that may not even sign with me, but I got some Dunkin' Donuts waiting for him. Like that. Yeah, I think that's what needs, or it's going to start coming back, is people that really want it, who wants it and who doesn't want it. That's the same thing with sports. Like,
yeah.
You want to go to the next level, you're going to have to do the extra work.
Put the extra work in.
And what do you think is, because sales is a big thing, especially in my business, like everybody wants to be trained. A lot of people just lean on social media. You're not a big social media user. You use it for fun, for what it's supposed to be. But for somebody who isn't, what are ways that you can be able to attack and grow your worth in business when it comes to sales? What's the other ways that you can attack people other than just writing, hey, who's looking for business?
Yeah, there's so many other ways to do it. I think LinkedIn is probably the most effective social media channel for sales if you're trying to go at like big time decision makers. So what I always tell people is engage and like interact with your prospective customer social media postings. If they're doing something on LinkedIn, they have a podcast or a blog that they wrote, listen to it, share your notes. I got big into industry events, so sponsor tables. If you're selling into like the hospital systems, whatever hospital systems association they got, get you a table at their events. So be where your customers are. And I think another big thing to like this new digital age of selling is like have a really good LinkedIn profile picture. As simple as it sounds.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to actually prospect and think you're going to get someone in today's world, they're going to probably check you out on LinkedIn first before they respond to your email, just because that's the greatest way to figure out who someone is, or best way to figure out who someone is.
Like an iPhone photo with this on, or what?
Get you a nice clean headshot, something professional. I'm more of a blazer, shirt, and cool sneakers guy. Yeah. So my LinkedIn picture, I got a blazer on, a shirt. But if you were able to scroll down to my shoes, I probably got some jeans and some Dunks on my feet, for example. And that's kind of what I carry with me today. So I would say do those things. And then for me personally, even how I got to Shopify. So after being at Salesforce for 6 years, I wanted to try something new. And because of the pandemic, a lot of industries have shifted, right? It used to be like brick and mortar. We're going to open up storefronts. That's how we're going to get business. We're going to have salespeople out here trying to find business. And what they discovered is, because of now, iPhones, smart devices, like access to data in real time, people are doing this on their phones. So they're going to your e-commerce site. So Shopify has a competitive advantage in that. We have the #1 conversion platform in the world.
Right.
out of any of our competitors.
Need that Shopify.
Yeah, so I saw all this stuff. I was doing my research, and then I reached out using LinkedIn to a manager during my early years at Salesforce who moved to Shopify. He's now the head of sales. Reached out to him like, hey, love to catch up on LinkedIn. Didn't have his number, didn't have his email. Hit him up on LinkedIn. A couple days later, got a meeting with him, transitioning now. Now I'm running his US East large accounts team. So it's all connectivity, understanding who's your first line of connect, who's your second line of connect, and then using all that stuff to get to that prospective person.
Bro, that rolls back to like what you said, bro. I'm here. I'm willing to take a chance. I'm willing to take a stab. Like a lot of people are waiting for opportunities to jump in front of them, man. Look where it was just all of like, bro, let me just take a chance on myself. Like you think about it literally, bro, from when you started in sales in New York, like I'm gonna hit all these boroughs with my BlackBerry. The map is here. I'm gonna meet him in the boiler room. I'm gonna meet him outside at 8 a.m. to where you are now, still carrying that. That's gonna continue to. You were going to be successful regardless because of those things that from a kid.
Yeah, those intangibles.
Them intangibles. One thing, because since we're on sales, one big thing that I've noticed like is keeping a good database of emails and phone numbers. What do you think are good ways or good, I wouldn't say tactics because I think that's a bad term for this, but what do you think are good ways to get response or clicks or somebody saying, well, let me see what they're about?
Yeah. So I think best practice, the formula I built over time, it's been time tested over the last decade, is really best practice from telemarketers that has been able to get in contact with me. I've had probably, and we all have had over, at this point in life, say 2,000 telemarketers, either email, call, whatever. I've probably gave 4 of those out of 2,000 the time or the day. And I remembered the reasons why. So I started to incorporate that into my overall prospecting, both cold call outreach and emails. So on the cold call front, you're only going to get maybe 30, 45 seconds of someone's attention because you got to think about it. You're dropping in on their day. So I think on the front end, when you first get someone on the phone, if you're lucky to, acknowledge that, be a human. Like just don't hop on the phone. I'm so-and-so with this company. We sell this. Do you want to buy this? Like acknowledge, hey, my name is Mario. Calling from this company. I know that I'm dropping in on your day. Do you have 30 seconds for me? Typically when you ask 30 seconds from someone, they'll give it to you. And within that 30 seconds, you gotta either hit them with some research you did and understanding like, hey, I know that your president is really looking to increase retention rates by XYZ or looking to increase revenue by XYZ. We've been able to effectively work with customers in your industry to do this. Would you be interested to hear more? Right. So you're using that commonality of, hey, they work with someone in our industry and using that personalization that you did the research. You're bringing a data point to my attention that I really care about. The second piece is more on the email outreach. There's been studies that show the most important part of an email is that subject line, because that's going to determine if that customer or that prospect is actually going to open up that email. So I like to use questions in my email. Some people, do it differently, but in my subject line, I put a question. Like, hey, are you looking to increase conversion rate by rates by 7%? Question mark. Within that body, keep it short and sweet, succinct. Have maybe 5 or 6 sentences. But within that, do enough research to understand like what this buyer, this customer, this prospect, what they care about, and you know what they care about based off research. So if you see them talking about, again, revenue or digital transformation initiatives, you highlight that. What I see a lot of people do wrong is that they have a general just email that's super fluff, doesn't give any tangible value to a customer for them to understand if it's worth my time or not. So those are just some of the best practices I would say have worked for me personally. I mean, I have a super high conversion or a super high hit rate with both my emails and cold calls. And if you just look at my team since I took it over, our pipe generation has went up by almost 3x. Since I took the team over. So I've been giving them.
It ain't been long. That's been, a month maybe?
Been 2 months now. So I've been giving them free game, right? That has been super impactful in their day-to-day jobs.
That's what's up, bro. Getting into sales, can you take things personal?
No, you can't. But the cool thing about sales, though, sales is just like dating.
Yeah.
There's so much similarities to relationships and sales and your personal relationships. So I find myself sometimes really understanding like, hey, my customer, they got stuff they're dealing with, right? I'm not the most important person, or my company is not the most important thing to this customer. So you give them grace sometimes. So you can't take things personal. You got to also understand if you're not providing value, you're not getting their time, right? They're just like in relationships. If you're not, bringing someone or bringing something new to someone, bringing them to new restaurants, taking them to see art, something different, right? You're probably not valuable enough for them to continue to give you their time. So that's another way to look at it as well.
That's a big bar. That's a big bar. I hear that a lot, especially in sales. Like sales in life are like relationships. Like how you handle relationships can really help you in the build of sales and just building a business. So I think that's a good one. Hell, I always need those type of reminders, even in my business, because you need to make someone feel good.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah.
That's what people buy from you. Especially if you have like an apples and apples product, meaning on the gym front, you got a gym, this person has a gym 2 miles down the road. You have the same price, he has the same price, or she has the same price. Mm-hmm. You have the same equipment, he or she has the same equipment. Mm-hmm. At this point, it's an emotional buying decision. Who do I like? Who do I want to do business with? So they go hand in hand.
And that's where the experience is. Do you think experience is going to separate that, or do people roll back onto the price point?
Experience. So when I look at price, my thought behind it is always cost versus value. So if you're getting enough value out of what I'm bringing to you or my solution, then the cost doesn't matter as much. But if I can't prove out that this cost and return on investment is going to equal and be greater than that cost, I'll tell people all the time. One of the things I'm notorious at in sales is I turn down business. I tell customers it's not mutually beneficial. I would not recommend it. And customers respect me at the end of the day for it. I've had buyers that I told that to 8 years down the line. They get to another company. They're now in like a CIO, chief information officer role. They remember that experience with me. So they reach back out to me about a new project. So it definitely helps.
Keep boundaries to yourself.
Yeah.
Boundaries and self-respect, just not taking anything.
Yeah. I mean, you want someone to know that, hey, if 2-3 years down the line, I can call this person and say, this worked out for me. I respect you. And I really appreciate you helping me elevate my career. Because that's really what I'm in the business of. One of the things I sell on is like, what is the personal gain from this? And if the customer can tell me like, hey, I want to move up to like a chief marketing officer role or VP of this, VP of that, and I'm a director right now. And if I can help them get there because of this project was able to impact the business positively, oh man, that made my whole year.
Heavy gems, brother. I was looking at this shirt, bro, and because I've always thought about like I'm always 1 degree, one solid link away from somebody, right? And just how we met, that was through a solid link. And one of the links that I got a chance to meet was Demarius, which is
my God.
Yeah, man. And I love that you came on here and that you wore that even on this, because I only knew him for a short period of time, but he had even an impact on just even my aura, and just to see the other people that he's impacted. What do you do now, or what do you take away from Demarius that you feel like you push forward going into life after that?
Yeah. Bebe was my guy. He was our guy to a lot of us. We had a group called All for One, and we still carry his name with us, to this day. And one of the things Bebe was big into, some folks call him Demarius, some folks call him DT.
Right. I didn't know I didn't know if I want saying I called him Demarius, but I knew him as Bebe. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Right? But
it's all good. Some folks call him 88. I call him Bebe. We got another name for him. I ain't gonna say it on on his podcast, but. Right. One of the things that I always remembered about him, I have a story. So when I was at Virginia Tech, I had just met Bebe probably a year before that. We came on a recruiting visit to Georgia Tech at the same time, and we're down on the field, and I see this big joker You know, I'm thinking this dude was like a tight end, you know, linebacker. He huge. He had Bebe on the back of his jacket. And so I'm like, who this big country dude is, you know, from Lawrence County. And so, you know, when I walk up to him, he busts out smiling like that. He had a big infectious smile. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, man, what's up? My name's Mario. I'm a safety at Westlake, thinking about Georgia Tech. He's like, oh, that's what's up. I play receiver. I'm like, man, you play receiver? And so we shared information and then, you know, kind of went our separate ways. I didn't end up going to Georgia Tech fresh out of high school. He did. So Virginia Tech had the school shootings in 2007. Mm. And I remember,
I didn't know you was up there.
Yeah, I was there. It was the last semester I was there. And one of the first people that reached out to me on Facebook was Bebe. And I haven't talked to Bebe probably in a solid 9 months to a year at this point. And that always stuck with me. So when I transferred to Georgia Tech, you know, he brought me in. So back in these days, a lot of folks didn't have cars on campus. So I was fortunate enough to have, you know, a car that I brought with me from Virginia Tech. I had a black Q45 Infinity.
Oh, you was big time.
With the TVs in the back.
Oh, you was big time.
Yeah, man.
You was big time. Every fun check did well.
Hey, this came from Pops. Pops, you know, hit a lick.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, back in those days, you hit a lick, you know, you gonna make sure everybody good. So first thing he did was buy me a car. Mm. So, you know, I pull up at Georgia Tech. I already knew Morgan Burnett. My boy from the South Side, he went to North Clayton, which is a rival high school at Westlake. So we played 7-on-7 together all the time. Like he had some folks in his clique that knew folks in my clique. So we clicked up before we even got there. He was hitting me up around the clock, like, bro, you need to come on. Mm. So when I got there, I already knew Morgan, and so we all kind of formed a group together. But he like the way Bebe embraced me was just so genuine, bro. Like he made sure if I wasn't driving to class, if he see me walking across campus, he had this Nissan two-door, or it was a Honda, two-door Honda, bro. He had more beat than he had car.
And a two-door Honda.
Yeah, but he had that thing, you know, based out, bro. He had all types of, you know, sound systems, all that stuff in the car. So you could hear him coming down the street. I'm talking about it rattling, bro. You know, it's, you know, those Hondas small, but he had the bass booming out the Honda.
License plate shattering.
Hey, facts. That was my guy. So when I hear that sound, I turn around and, you know, he give me a ride to class and we'll go out on the weekends. Like, you know, everybody loved Bebe, man. He just one of those just personalities that was real bubbly.
Yeah.
And then he left a shadow. So like, and I didn't realize all the people he was helping and all the people he stayed in contact with over the years into his service, his funeral service, and the stories we were hearing. I was like, man, like if I can just live my life the way you lived it, and like making sure like when someone needed you, you were there. If someone needed help, you provided help any way you could. So he left a shadow behind him of a lot of people that he helped out. So that's one thing I always remember about Bebe. But he was a good time too. So we don't have some good nights, you know, partying around this city.
Yeah, bro. One thing I've been invited inside of your circle and family to where they treat me like family, and that was the first thing off the rip. Like I even hit Demarius up where he came out to the hills and he's like, bro, I'm gonna come by the gym, or he's like, man, if you ever need anything from me, you know, let me know. And you know, that just let me know how much respect he had for you to even do that, because you know how we operate as people. Like you don't help out everybody, but your circle you do. So I'm also thankful to be a part of the family, and which is funny because now your new family, I've been connected through your journey all the way up to now, bro. Like, you know, a lot of people don't know that even come to the gym. They don't even come to the gym. I introduced you and your wife, you know, which is, man, amazing. I love seeing y'all. Y'all are what, 1 year down? Y'all a year and some change?
Year and some change, yeah.
Yeah. And man, how that even happened. I was driving Uber on the side, about to open up just to make extra money, and I was about to open up fourth quarter. And I remember driving, and I picked up two girls that's come from, I think, the Drake concert.
Drake
Migos. Yep, Drake Migos. And they got in, man. We was talking about, I was playing Drake, and then somehow we got to start talking about God, man. And just talking about life. And like her friend was turned, but it was like I kept talking to Naya, and I was like, bruh, you need to come train with me. She was like, all right, I'm coming. I need to work out. So she was like, I'm coming Monday. And she came Monday. And I remember coming to you and I was like, Mario,
I remember that.
Yeah, like, bro, I need.
And you never said that about any other woman, bro.
Nah, none. But this one in particular, I said, Mario, I need to introduce you to somebody, bro. Like, you gonna like her. And he's like, all right, bet. And I introduced y'all, and then you took it from there. But how does it feel, man, going from, because I met you as a single young man, like fresh out of college, to now I see you married, you have a wife, and even to be a part of that. I'm honored. I'm always honored. I don't even tell that story often, but how does it feel going into this next phase as a young man? Those details, how are you able to apply them to your new family?
Yeah. Well, first, like, thank you. You brought me my biggest blessing in life, my wife. And when you came to me, because I was working out with you at this point, probably at least three years. Yeah, solid 3 years. And if you worked out at a lot.
Not two. It was 2018.
Yeah, you were still at the loft.
Damn.
Yeah, you were still at the loft. And I remember because you had women working out with you and stuff at Universal, the loft.
Yep.
And you never came to me and was like, hey, Mario, I got somebody. And when you told me that, I really respected you as a person. So I knew, like, all right, I got to see what he's talking about.
Right.
And from the moment I met Anaya, it was a spark. We really bonded on our faith in God. The first text I originally sent her was sermon notes from Stephen Furtick sermon she sent me.
Boy. You're right.
And I remember listening to it because, I wanted to make sure, she knew I was like paying attention. And also, like, I was taking my walk with God around this time as well, looking for a church home.
Yep.
So she sent me the sermon series and I listened to it, and I'm sitting there listening. I got so emotional listening to it. I took my phone out and started taking notes. And I remember one of the first texts I sent her was the sermon notes. And she texted me back. She was like, I'm happy you took a lot away from it. And we've talked on the phone since that day. I remember I was like not dating, but like seeing other folks. Before I even went on a date with Anaya, I told them other girls, I was like, hey, just to let you all know, I don't want to waste your time. I think this is the end of our journey together, because I felt so convicted in this person. And I knew, bro, if I'm feeling this strongly about a woman I never even went out with,
right?
Like, whoever I was in the past, y'all in the past, because like this is deep, and I never even went out with this woman.
Yeah.
But since the first date, man, she's a great time. She's a great woman.
Yeah.
She leads a small women's group at Buckhead. She's big into giving back her time. She has really challenged me in ways that I didn't even know imaginable. It made me a better person, better man. So, I have nothing but respect for you, man. Like I mentioned, you gave me my biggest blessing. In terms of the question, how does it feel, the transition? You can't really prepare yourself for this.
Right.
It's like you wake up one day, you were in love, you planning a future with somebody else, and you kind of just figure this shit out. Like we say every day, like, we make a decision every day to love each other. And it's a everyday decision you make. And sometimes you're in the trunk of the car, she's driving, she's swerving it. Sometimes you're in the passenger seat. Sometimes you're in the back seat. Sometimes you're on top of the car, right?
Yeah.
One of the things we always say, we got this from Will Smith. He said, me and Jada was talking at dinner one time, and we was like, what has been one of the keys to our success in this marriage? And they said, because you allow for me to live my life and you can live your life. Will said sometimes, I'm merely a passenger in her journey, and she's a passenger in my journey. And that's kind of how we live. So it's been an adjustment. I mean, the biggest adjustment is knowing like your time is not your time anymore. You got to spread yourself thin. Also, it's like my boys have been super supportive. One word of advice I'll give to a lot of like younger, married guys, like make sure your boys are on board. If they're not, like you got to really reevaluate if you need that person around you. And what I mean on board is like making sure they don't put you in situations that can be a detriment to your relationship, making sure that they have the same respect for your wife that you do, and all that stuff. So it go hand in hand. But no, you don't prepare for it. You kind of just wake up, figure it out every day.
Nah, Shit, that's straight on. That's straight on point. So if you out there, listen, there's some gems that you just dropped on that one. Some gems that just dropped on that. It's just been dope even seeing. I even watch y'all's little community, and a lot of the community sparked from the gym, you know. And one big reason, a lot of the people that I wanted to highlight first, even on this podcast, were people that came from my community and my bubble, because it's legitimately like a family. Everybody's like-minded. They may not be on the same wave as far as like what they want out of life to a certain extent, but they are on the same wave, some way, through principles, morals, like how they move. And to even see y'all tribe grow, and it came from the gym, like what started off as just like, hey bro, I need to introduce you to somebody, to that. That's just dope to me, man. That's just so fucking dope to me, Mario. We talk about health, we talk about wealth, relationships. One of the big things that I wanted to do was not only give flowers on here, but also to give people value points that make you as a person. Like, I think that's what these stories about who you are growing up, what made you, what molded you, where you are now. If anybody had to walk away from this and it was always like, this is what I need to remember about Mario Edwards, or Bug, Mr. Edwards, whatever they always remember it by, what are some key points that they should always know about you and take from you?
Good question. I would say I'm a very intentional person. I'm intentional with my time. I'm intentional with my relationships. I'm intentional by the way that I treat people. And one of my biggest goals every day is to get 1% better. I say this all the time. And I think the way I look at my life, I try to make the complex seem simple. And for me, like, I'm always looking ahead. That's one of the things I try to get better at, because sometimes when I look ahead, I don't enjoy the process that I'm currently in. And also sometimes you just don't enjoy your success when you're always looking forward. So, I always try to live in the moment and be present. Now, that's one of my big things I've been working on since I've been in my 30s, is like just being present. But I'm very intentional with my time. So 1% better for me is, one of the things, for example, on my job, I'm in a lot of meetings. I do a lot of presentations to both stakeholders internally and to our customers. And I've been working to get just better at everything. So, for example, now I'll listen and rewatch and record every presentation I give. I'll listen and see the ums I make, the body language, tonality, you name it. And I try to get better each and every one. It's uncomfortable at times, right? You're watching yourself do something. But, for me, that's allowed for me to get better.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of just coaching my account executives and trying to be the best, manager I can be to them. I've learned a lot. I've learned that, everyone has different motives. Everyone's motivated differently, and really understanding what they care about, digging into their family life, are they married? What are their goals? And really just being more intentional about building those relationships.
Yeah. And
then the last thing I'll share is, one of the things I really do appreciate you for is creating some stable fitness, a stable fitness foundation for me. So part of that 1% better every day, and the mind, body, and soul thing that I try to improve every day is working out. I always say it's the hardest part of my day, so I like to get it done early in the morning. It's something like getting up, going to the gym, like sweating it out, doing something really challenging and hard, and then going back home with, and finishing out your work day. You feel just more accomplished. You feel good about yourself. So that's one thing I always want people to remember about me. Like, I'm very intentional with my schedule, my relationships, and I'm all about getting 1% better every day.
Bro, you definitely invite. I definitely get that. I don't hear no cap in none of that. Like, that's when I think of Mario, I definitely think of those things. So that definitely would be something. Though, listen to those. Intentional. Make sure you're taking care of himself. Make sure the family and the circle is good. Those are the details. And hearing your story is going to ring to somebody, because we known so much for known so long for fitness. Another reason why I'm doing this is I wanted to show another side to me, and this is I always feel comfortable being around my community, and being in this bubble, and this makes it easier for me to do something like this. You know, I don't have no problem having conversations, but doing something where, like you said, you watching those presentations, I can't wait to watch this and be like, ooh, man, I could have did better on this or next time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it, once again, to do my first one with somebody that I truly respect and that I value out here in the world, like, that means the world to me, bro. So yeah, man, thank you for coming on the details, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
My dog, man.
Yes, sir.
That's listen, so this is the first one. You've watched the first one. Make sure that you share the details on your platforms, whether we're all platforms that we're going to be on. Make sure that you tune in. This is going to be a community where I come to bring some dope, amazing people that are doing dope and amazing things that God has just allowed me an opportunity to come across their path, and that I truly have a genuine connection with and a link. And that each time that you tune in, there's something that you can take away from this, or whether it's knowing more about myself or knowing more about the people that you see on this, or just knowing more about yourself. I hope that you're able to take something each time and share this with the world, so that way we can impact more people and get more fourth quarter mindset, like-minded individuals that are out here trying to curve the bell to excellence, and high value people with high value mindset. So yeah, with that being said, man, we out.
Salute to the grind.
Salute to the grind. Yeah.